Before we start the conversation, I'll say a little bit about Institute of Coding, since the Institute of Coding sponsors the Dynamo conference and also leads or has suggested this particular panel for inclusion in the program. The Institute of Coding is an England-wide initiative in higher education, so that is in universities, to innovate in how we deliver digital skills. And this has various forms, like we do degree apprenticeships in all the universities in the Northeast. We do activities in wider participation, and that is certainly a big part of the topic today. We do that not just in Newcastle University, which you see in my background is my base, but we also do it in Sunderland, in Northumbria, and in Durham. Before we start our panel discussion, I want to give people the opportunity to introduce themselves, all the panel members. I'll quickly introduce myself. I'm Aaf van Moorsel. I lead the Institute of Coding effort in Newcastle University. I'm a professor in computer science, particularly in cybersecurity, and have in various roles been involved in wider participation as well as inclusion, and therefore have some background in this area that is relevant to the panel. Maybe I'll go from left to right on my screen. Sue Black, can you quickly introduce yourself? You have a chance to talk about your Tech Up project in a second, but just to yourself at the moment.
Okay, hi, I'm Sue Black, Professor of Computer Science and Technology Evangelist at Durham University. My background in this area is I'd set up the UK's first online network for women in tech, Business Women, in 1998. I've got a social enterprise, I'm founder of a social enterprise called Tech Mums, teaching tech skills to mums in disadvantaged areas, and as Ard said more recently, lead on the Tech Up Women project, which I'll talk about later.
Freya.
Hi everyone, my name is Freya. I am the founder of a charity. It's called Being Women in Northumberland. Our main aim is to promote equality and diversity, so through education, digital skills, and making sure that we commission and publish research as well around digital inclusion and the equality and diversity, especially around the areas of Northumberland. As also by myself, I have one of the Tech Up Women program person. I think that was, I will talk about it later, how that experience was. But I'm one of 100 Tech Up Women. I'm also the YMCA trustee, YMCA Northumberland trustee here. And I've recently, the Rising Star Award winner for the charity sector as well.
Thank you. Sue Davison.
Hi, I'm Sue Davison. I'm a co-founder and director of Foundation Futures, which is a specialist teaching and youth service based in Byker and Walker. We also have a charity arm where we do a lot of work with the community. My experience in tech is limited. However, we are responding to a need in those two areas that young people and their families are excluded from the digital world for lots of reasons. So we've found some funding to set up a digital hub called Foundation Futures Make Stuff. And it was due to open in April, but of course it hasn't, which is a real shame. But we've got lots of ideas about how tech firms can really engage with young people through school.
Thank you, and then we'll give you another opportunity to talk more about Foundation Future. Karen, could you introduce yourself?
So my name is Karen Marshall and I work for Accenture, their technology centre in Newcastle. We have a big apprenticeship programme of all ages. We do a lot of outreach and engagement, especially with unemployed people and NEETs and some NEET prevention work. We engage with about 15,000 people a year at that centre. And Accenture also has a pledge to try to have our workforce 50-50, women and men by 2025. So we're trying to do a lot of initiatives to support that. And also in the current situation, we have been delivering and piloting some virtual digital skills programs for people who are unemployed and people who are furloughed and at risk of redundancy.
Thank you very much. So I'm gonna ask each of the panel member a question related to their work, and then they can explain a little bit about some particular initiatives that they're involved in. Sue Black, can I start with you and ask about Tech Up initiative funded by the Institute of Coding? Can you talk a bit more about how it's come about, what you have achieved in Tech Up?
Sure, thanks very much. So the idea, I guess, behind Tech Up Women came from my 25 years experience of being in being a woman in technology, and from, I guess, meeting so many women over the years who really wanted to work in tech but didn't quite know how to get into tech. So I've come across so many women in that situation over the years, and also talking to lots of companies who want to hire more women, particularly into technical roles, and you know, kind of saying that they just didn't know how to recruit women. You know, they'd advertise jobs and either they wouldn't get many women applicants, or they did get some, but they didn't get through to the final stage. And so really this kind of call from industry, like how do we hire more women? And particularly, how do we hire people from diverse backgrounds? And so when the call for funding for the Institute of Coding came out, and I saw that there was a big focus on diversity and inclusion, there was a big focus on underrepresented and underserved communities, I just thought this is the chance for me really to get some funding to do something that I've wanted to do for a very long time. So we put together a consortium we brought together 4 universities, so as Durham as lead, then York, Nottingham and Edge Hill, and also 15 industry partners, so all different sorts of companies, from tech consultancies like BGSS through to companies like Capital One and Experian, and some smaller companies. And we also brought in 2 organisations that know more about diversity than we do, which are Colour in Tech and BAME Recruitment, to advise us too. So we brought everyone together and to try and work out, so what did we want? What do we want to do? We wanted to put a programme together to retrain women from underserved backgrounds into technology careers. And so we put out a call for women to apply for the programme. We decided that it would be a 6-month programme, mainly online, and that we would really try hard to target key skill shortage areas in tech companies. So through our partners, in discussion with our partners, we asked them to tell us which roles are you really trying to recruit women into that you're not getting enough women applying. And so we had a list of about 10 or 12 roles, and we took the top 4. And the top 4 of those roles were software developer, agile project manager, business analyst, and data scientist. So then we set about creating a program which would take women who had a degree, so had a certain level of education, through a program, through the basics of computer science, and into one of those technology specific roles. We put together a program, so it was mainly online, like I said. We split it into 3 terms. So it started with like general computer science basics, programming in Python, and then our Tech Up Women participants had to choose between a more technical or less technical program. So then in the kind of the second term that we had, they choose one of those 2 routes. And then in the final term, they would choose between one of those four specific job roles. And the aim was to retrain everyone within 6 months, so that at the end of the program, they would be able to start working in a kind of trainee role in that particular area. So we really focused on recruiting women from underserved communities. We had, I think, 219 applications for 100 places. The program started last July. We really focused on BAME women, women with disabilities, LGBT women, and parents. And we managed to get 54% BAME women, which was amazing. I really wanted to have a program where BAME women were in the majority, so I'm delighted that we managed to do that. I think we had 46% women with disabilities, 40% parents, and about 27% LGBT women on the program. And so we started last July. One thing I know from doing online courses myself is I don't think I've ever finished one of them. So we realized that we really need to kind of build in some support all the way around the program to help the women as much as possible reach the end. So we had residential weekends, 4 residential weekends, 1 at each university kind of throughout the program. And we had one-to-one mentoring. So the companies that were involved all provided mentors for the women so that everyone had a weekly mentoring session with an industry mentor. And so the program finished last January, and we had 50% of women finished and passed everything by then. And I think now we're at about 75% now. Quite a few women have gone on to get jobs. Quite a few have gone on to further education, master's courses and PhDs. Quite a few women have got promoted from kind of being more technical now on the program.
Thank you, Sue. It's a very convincing project and excellent. And moreover, we have evidence of the success of the program because Faria, you're an alumna of the Tech Up Women program. Can you say a little bit about your experience in that program?
Okay, so for me, Tech Up Women it's a very visionary program. You know, the vision that they set out, as was explained, that is actually, you know, it was there because I'm a live evidence of what the program can bring in. So it was, you know, it is a life-changing program for me. If I'm particularly talking about myself, I was at a position, you know, where I needed, as Sue said, that, you know, I've always been interested in tech, but because I somehow didn't like the computer science thing, you know, I never got into education there. I chose the other subjects at university. But this program was not only specific to one area, it gave you an opportunity to focus on everything that is tech related. And from that, I mean, even the social media, you know, how to manage the social media, how to build a website for your own brand, for your business, or for any place you're working. So what Tech Up Women has done is that it has made the people, and especially the women, realize that there's not only one job of a computer scientist or a software developer. There's so many variations to Tech Up Women. There's so many variations to tech opportunities that are live in the world at the moment. So for me, I've gained a lot of experience, a lot of skills, tech skills, which are not only useful for me, but also useful for the charity that I founded. And it is like you know, continuation. Whatever I've learned from there, I am now able to transfer it to the women and men around, especially living in Northumberland, because I think you're aware there is a lot of digital exclusion here in this area. So people are not equipped with digital skills, right? I think from the time COVID-19 is going on, people are now choosing between data and foods. There's so much data poverty. There's so much like lack of digital skills. So I think that is what has made us realize that how much the areas and people can be less excluded when we're talking about tech skills and digital skills. So Tech Up Women has made me that vision to carry it forward. And I personally, because I'm coming from a charitable background, I would like to use Tech Up Women as like tech for good. You know, what we could do in like how to humanize tech, not rather just and reaching out to the most vulnerable people in our community and giving them skills to thrive in an economy, you know, thrive in a better economy, thrive in a very digitally included environment. Because, you know, if it's not about that people do not know how to use skills, you know, do not want to use tech, it's about that people do not know how to use tech. You know, it's a way of giving them those skills, giving them that confidence that doesn't matter, you know, whichever stage they are in, they can still go for it and learn it and make them, you know, able to survive in this world today. Yes.
Thank you very much. Can you say a little bit more about specific activities that you carry out in your charity?
Okay, so in terms of the activities that we carry out, is we are very much focused on bringing diversity and inclusion in the area. We work on the equality sector, especially the gender equality, because and that's why we've got, yes, the name is Being Women, but it does not mean that it's only specifically for women. It has men, our board members are men, our people who work for us, they're mainly men as well, and we believe that it's very critical to engage men and boys as well when we are talking about gender equality. You know, I cannot decide what a man would be thinking about equality just by deciding by myself. So it's very important. Also, because we are based in Northumberland, the idea came about because we saw that there's not so much representation from underserved communities, especially from the Black, Asian and minority communities. So as a BME founder myself, I believe that we should be inviting more people from various backgrounds to join up. We do provide the digital skills provision from a very basic to an advanced level. We also are turning, you know, right now, because of the COVID-19 and because of thanks to Tech of Women for giving me those skills, we are building an app. Because we came up with, it is a food app. It is called My Food Box, and that is due to launch in next 3-4 weeks, because I was just testing it in the morning. So what that app is to give equal opportunities to people to order the food boxes and order the food parcels by sitting at home. And what we found out, if somebody has to call at various places to order a food box, I think that's inconvenient, and people have lost jobs. People have, you know, have struggled to choose between data and food. So we are looking to give them an opportunity, an equal opportunity to everybody, regardless of race, gender, immigration status, or, you know, your disability. They can order food. They can request the food parcel by just sitting at home through an app with no faceless, you know, with face. Because I think, and what you really need to understand here is people do have shame as well. You know, they suffer from shame, they suffer from guilt when they're going onto food banks and queuing outside.
Thank you, very interesting. Sue Davison, we talked a little bit about gender. We also touched on BAME, and we touched on underserved communities. Sue Davison, you work in those communities. Can you tell a little bit about what your organization does and what you have achieved?
Foundation Futures is a specialist teaching service, and we work with young people who are extremely disadvantaged and at risk of achieving at school, or even being excluded from school. And the other part of our organisation is a charity arm which does a lot of work in the communities of Biker and Walker. In response to some research and the work was done in Biker and Walker, we found out some quite shocking statistics. And I think unless you work or you live in communities like this, you have no idea just how disadvantaged people are. I know there's a myth that everyone has a smartphone and everyone has a widescreen massive TV, and it is a complete myth. Yes, a number of people do have smartphones, but they have no access to Wi-Fi, and they have no, you know, limited data. So already they're digitally disadvantaged. On the Biker Wall estate, which is in the bottom 0.2% of the government's index of multiple deprivation, it doesn't get much more difficult than that. 3 years ago, slightly out of date now, but 3 years ago, there were 11 families on that estate who had a computer and access to Wi-Fi. 11 families. So again, really sort of excluded from the digital world. And in response to this, we've been trying to get some funding to set up a digital hub for children, young people and their families to be based in Biker, to set up some coding clubs because the other thing is that there are coding clubs in the centre of Newcastle. However, these young people don't have the money for bus fare or metro fare. So we needed something very, very local that was run by people that they know. And we've got great relationships with families in Biker and Walker. So we were hoping to open that in April this year, but obviously we've not been able to. But we are moving towards getting a lot more laptops and tablets and data sims to give out in a lending library to some of the children and young people that we already work with. But it's all funding dependent. I mean, the other thing I want to say is that education, I don't think, is keeping up with the digital world in primary and secondary schools. And there's a lot of young people who are naturally very predisposed to working in tech. However, they don't have the access at home, and we don't have extended programs in school just because the national curriculum is so much more narrow than it used to be. So we're quite passionate about developing some partnerships so we can work with those young people who are the most disadvantaged, who don't have any access, don't have the support at home to sort of fuel their interest in the tech industry.
I want to go to Karen, who is representing industry.
Here we are.
Yeah. So you already mentioned a little bit about Accenture and the pledge to go to a 50-50 gender balance. Can you say a little bit, for instance, in your role as apprenticeship lead, can you say a little bit of how you are working to achieve that and what you have achieved thus far?
Yeah, so far. I think it's really important to put like Accenture's work in context. It is one of the world's largest technology solutions companies. You know, we employ about 500,000 people globally. It's really hard to get your head around that until you work in a corporation of that size. But the thing that I love about my job and that I love about Accenture is that they are very determined to not just say something, but to do something about it. So when it comes to our corporate citizenship, we're very clear that a key aspect of our corporate citizenship is to help people into work. And we really want to help people work in a digital company and have digital skills. To that extent, a lot of the work that we do is about reaching out into the communities. And yes, we'd love people to know that we're there and that we have jobs, but we also get it that we're very, very corporate. And that might not be a perfect environment for everybody that we encounter and meet. And not everybody ultimately as well wants to work in a completely digital environment and in a technology company, but they still need elements of digital skills to get a job anywhere. So they're kind of the three tiers of engagement and outreach that we provide. And we do that from primary school right the way up to people in their 50s. And we work with a lot of local charities to find those people and to support them as part of the work that those charities are doing on their journey. And then aligned to that, you know, it was very clear to us when we started our degree apprenticeship program. I fought really hard to make sure that the degree apprenticeship program has remained a program where we have no minimum entry requirements. I don't care what qualifications you've got. We'll take you through a degree. We've done that with everybody so far. You know, we've never lost an apprentice because they haven't been able to do the work or keep up with their academic studies. Sometimes there's other issues that come into play. But we've got a really high progression rate as well. We don't want to invest and spend lots of time and money on all of these people to then lose them at the end. It's not a program where we train up lots of people and then let them go. So what we did realize when we started the degree apprenticeship program in particular was that we weren't getting a lot of girls applying. And we knew that more widely in the workforce with grad programs, we don't get as many girls applying. And especially when we're looking at people now who maybe want to re-career or return to work or change careers, that in the main it tended to be men. So we've been doing a lot of work over the years externally to reach out to many different groups and organisations to try to find those women and girls and support them with some girl-only programmes. We also, when it comes to recruitment, we have delivered female-only assessment centres. We try to make sure that it's women interviewing women. But then also what's really important for us is in the workplace to make sure that that support's there with things like flexible working, with lean-in programs. We have not just like a gender program for women, we call it Equality Allies. There's lots of men involved in that, and it covers all different areas of equality, and we're really keen to make it very open and very engaging and very supportive for as many of our staff as possible. So going from 0 female applicants on our apprenticeship program, we're now at about 30-40% apprentices on the program, and adamant and determined to make that 50% as soon as we can, you know, and we're just working really hard with a lot of the outreach and engagement that we do to help those figures increase year on year.
Thank you very much, Karen. Thank you all for introducing your fantastic projects. There are two big things happening at the moment, big shocks to our existing society and the systems that we run it with. Of course, there's COVID, and of course, in the past week, the Black Lives Matter initiative has come up very much as well. I want to touch on racial discrimination and issues of racial inclusion first. Can all of you, or at least some of you, tell a little bit about your perspective about how you have worked around inclusion for BAME people, Black, Asian, ethnic minorities, in your settings? And can you say a little bit about how the current activities might further impact your activities in this way? The Tech Up Women project very clearly prioritized BAME as one of the objectives in terms of improved inclusion, improved participation. Can you say a little bit more about that and your perspective on that, and what you think the recent activities will impact in that?
So you see, obviously we are talking here about racial discrimination. Me coming from a background who are at the risk of having racial discrimination is quite high, And if you talk about Tech Up Women, that is purely, as it was described, it had more majority of women from BAM backgrounds. So that actually means, but how did it happen? It didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen with magic. There was a team of people who had the vision to bring that diversity, who brought it, So there's always, if you are looking to tackle discrimination of any kind, there has to be a team of people who actually believe in equality. And that's how you can bring or tackle any kind of discrimination and bring equality. If the team does not actually themselves believe that there has to be equal opportunities, I don't think so any project would be able to achieve it, whether that's a corporate company, whether it's a charity, or whether anybody who's looking to have diversity and inclusion. In Tech Up Women, there were women from various backgrounds. Yes, there was a majority of women from the BME backgrounds, which actually helped us understand that we are accepted, which help us understand me, because I'm coming from an Asian background. I'm not in a position to talk about somebody who is from a Black background to talk about their experience. But because I was in Northumberland, I was coming from Northumberland, and I was the only one from Northumberland as well. That was a bit of surprise for me too. And that is not on the basis of color or creed, but also because I think you all are aware, Northumberland is not very multicultural. There's very hardly any representation of BAM in here. So, and we are trying to work it out, but it's going to take time. It's not going to happen. And it's all about creating awareness, making people aware that, okay, it's okay to accept people from different backgrounds. And it's very important to have representation from each group if you're looking to, if you're even talking about diversity and inclusion. It's very easy to put things on paper. It's very easy to have policies in place, but when when it comes to implement them, there has to be you know, an evaluation, and there has to be monitoring as well, that whether that's been implemented or not, you know, because sometimes, for example, I am from a BME background and I might not know that jobs are posted on LinkedIn, you know, for example. So if you're looking to recruit a BME person for that post, and if they're not on LinkedIn, how would you reach that community? So you really need to find out ways of how to reach that community and where their accessibility is, if you're looking to have that representation on your board, or if you, so from Tech Up Women, how I've built on that success is, the chair of our charity is from Tech Up Women. She's white, you know, she's Marianne Whitfield from MSP, and she was my mentor. So we have developed a very good relationship throughout. Then if you look at our trustee board, 3 of our trustees are from Tech Up Women, because they believed in that idea. They believed that, okay, we have to do something together. It's not about that we are in Tech Up Women and we are, you know, we don't have to build on the success. Tech Up Women will live forever if we keep on building the success of it. I think the racial discrimination should not be only associated with color. And that's what I was telling you before as well. It's with everybody. Maybe there are people who are in addiction, in, you know, that's also, are we giving them the opportunity, or are we just labeling them? Because I worked in that sector and they've been like, oh, I'm alcoholic. But that's not what we are tackling. That's also discrimination as well, in me, you know, with me, that, okay, why are you labeling people? Why are we labeling each other? And I think that is why I've agreed to come into the panel today as well, and want to make a point that racial discrimination can only be tackled if we first tackle our insecurities within ourselves. If we don't know what are insecurities within ourselves, how could we actually achieve on tackling racial discrimination anywhere? And Sue Black and her team and Tech Up Women has made a point, you know, they are the pioneers. Okay, you know, we can do it together. So I think we should all learn from each other and be a part of a bigger goal, rather than just thinking, oh, why there is no diversity in the workforce, wherever, you know, we need to work towards it. It's not going to happen one day. It's going to take some time.
Thank you very much. Sue Black, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, sure. So we made a conscious decision to have, if possible, majority BAME women on the program for various reasons, but kind of something that's quite close to my heart really is that I brought up my 3 older kids on a council estate in Brixton, inner city London. And so back then in my environment, most of my friends were black and their children were black. And so I kind of, through my 20s and 30s, had the experience of their kids growing up at the same time that my kids were growing up. It was just really eye-opening for me in a horrific way, really, that particularly my friends who had black sons had such a different life, I guess, than my sons and kind of white children around us, in that, you know, a couple of my friends' sons were, one even in primary school, so age 11, because he was quite tall, I think people thought that he was older. You know, he got picked up by the police walking from his mum's house to her friend's house to go and pick up a book, and taken to the police station. And, you know, at 11 years old, that's just utterly ridiculous. And then over years, they would just end up being stopped and searched by the police. And, you know, my sons are mixed race, but they're half Vietnamese. So, but my sons never got picked up by the police. And my friends' sons would regularly get picked up by the police all the way through their teenage years. And so experiences like that, and I guess also my own kind of experience of, you know, it's been quite interesting for me going from being, you know, a very poor, living in poverty as a single parent on a council estate in inner city London, and the way that lots of people treated me, you know, like if I went to, for example, the council office or just various different people would treat me extremely badly and be quite rude to me. And, you know, now I'm a professor of computer science at Durham University, and practically no one treats me badly at all. but I'm the same person. So, you know, from various different experiences in my life, I've seen that, exactly to Faria's point, lots of people get judged. They get judged all the time, you know, and it's not fair. And we really need to, as Faria's saying, work on ways that so that we can do something about that and try and take away that judgment from society, from individuals on certain groups of people. You know, at that time, the Conservative government were really vilifying single parents. And so I was one of those single parents. So I know what it's like to live with quite a bit of discrimination. But my friends that were black had a much worse experience than I did, you know, and their children growing up had all of these experiences, which I didn't know that was happening. And it's only, I feel now lucky and privileged that I got to see that almost firsthand happening, because it's really affected, I guess, the way that I see the world, and it's affected my behavior in terms of the way that I want the world to change, I guess. So, you know, I think there's lots of important issues around this, and I think working together, again, as Faria says, is the way that we can do something about it, and talking to each other openly and honestly. And, you know, even some of these conversations are very difficult and can be very scary, but I think we've just got to, you know, now's the time to have those conversations so that we can help, you know, everyone move forward and make sure as much as possible that we really pay attention to what people are saying that have experienced discrimination, and work together to do something about it.
Thank you very much. Sue Davison, could we hear a bit from your perspective on?
I would say our alternative education programs are quite interesting because statistically in the North East, the young people who are at higher risk of being excluded than anyone else are white boys. And on most of our education programs, it tends to be white boys with a smaller percentage of white girls. Interestingly, BME children in the North East are more likely to do well in their GCSEs than white children. However, their unemployment is higher once they actually leave school. And I would say, as far as our youth programs, our youth clubs that we run, it's extremely multicultural in Biker. There's 23 languages spoken. I would say at least 30% of children who come to our youth clubs are from a BME background. And the integration is fantastic, absolutely brilliant, you know. However, I would say that the parents are more difficult to reach just because of a confidence thing. But we do have a member of staff, and we have volunteers who are from the BME community. So we're hoping that's going to help. And we are working very hard to introduce a lot of sort of sections into our education programs about educating young people in the North East who perhaps don't live in a particularly multicultural area, but to appreciate people from another background. As far as experiencing inequalities and prejudice, I would say that on our education program, the young people we work with kind of look like trouble, and people, you know, the kind of young people who other people cross the road to avoid. You know, they've got their tracky bottoms tucked into their socks, they've got the hoods up, and it is incredible the prejudice we've come up against with those young people, going to museums where they've behaved impeccably. We've had museum staff follow us with walkie-talkies, updating the management on where these kids are and what they're looking at. I would say that Walker is probably a little bit more, well, a little bit less multicultural, but our experience in Byker has been really positive with the BME community. But that's not to say we've not got a lot to learn, because obviously, being a white person, I haven't come across any racial discrimination. But I think we've all got a lot to learn across the board.
Thank you very much. Very interesting perspectives. Karen, could you add a perspective from an industrial side, if you want, or your personal side?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting listening to everybody. When I've lived in England now for 22 years, and times have changed, and I was subject to quite a lot of discrimination when I first moved over. Some very subtle, some not so subtle, to the extent where I had to have extra directory numbers in the house, and the police had to get involved at times, and my car was damaged, but because it had the Northern Ireland reg on it. But I think what's opened my eyes, working for a big corporate organisation like Accenture, and working with some very disadvantaged local people, because we do have people working for us from all over the world, and we're very, very open and clear about, we don't care who you are, what you're like, or what happens, as long as you're interested in tech and you want to learn to code and program and you want to come and work for us and you can turn up every day, that's all we need. And I think what fascinates me when we do a lot of the outreach and engagement programs with young people, very local young people, they're fascinated not because there's such a wide range and diverse mix of cultures and colours and different types of people. It's more that, why would they want to come and live here? Because they think the Northeast is a bit rubbish. Why did you want to come here? Why did they want to live here? And we have people from Nigeria and India and all different kinds of local organisations and different people that are involved. We all celebrate Eid, we all celebrate Pride, all of this stuff's very open and very inclusive. I think what we do try to do is to build on the people that are working for us and living in the communities at the minute. We reach out through those the people and the support groups that they have to try to make sure that our outreach and engagement is reaching as wide and diverse a range of young and older people as possible. And we build on the support groups internally to make sure that, accent on family, accent on culture, the equality allies, they all overlink and overlap. And the events that we have then enables us to invite their support groups in to talk. With lots of brown bag sessions at lunchtime. We're all very keen to listen and learn from each other. And I think it's constantly reminding ourselves that just because we keep doing that, it's not enough. We need to do more. And that there's lots of different people who, as we've all said, you don't fall into a box. You might be a BAME, you might also be LGBTQ, you might also have issues with your family. There could be disabilities in the family.
What I actually wanted to give everyone an opportunity is to tell what you think is the one thing we could do in the Northeast to improve diversity in the workplace, in particular around digital. But what is the one thing that you would want to see happening? That could be something from government, something from a university, something from your company, or some from companies. What is the one thing that you think, that would be a major improvement? I'm going to go around and give everybody an opportunity. I give you a few seconds to think about this question right now, but then you will have to answer quite quickly.
So the one thing that I would like anybody, it's from everyone, not particularly government or anybody, but it's like taking the initiative. If you are looking to change, the change comes from you first. If you want to, get things changed, or if you want to bring in diversity or inclusion specifically in the Northeast, it has to come from yourself. Like, obviously I'm the founder of a charity, but I made sure that there's representation, and that's why Marianne is the chair, making sure that, yes, it is an equal division. And even with this, like, Marianne stepped down and brought me onto the panel. This is a change. This is that she's taking that initiative to change. So it is, if you would like to change anything, bring in diversity, you need to first understand that, you know, yourself.
Thank you very much. Sue Black, do you want to tell us one thing that you would like to see?
It kind of follows on from what Faria said, in that, you know, the first thing I think you should do is educate yourself. You know, like, so Black Lives Matter has been running for some time now, and it's really come to the fore with the death of George Floyd. And technology has really enabled, through social media, so many people to connect with each other, and also to understand what it's like from other people's perspective, and also to connect together people that care about the same issues. And so I think, you know, the first step for anyone is to educate yourself on what the issues are, and try and put yourself in other people's shoes, basically, before taking any action at all.
Thank you very much. Sue Davison, what would be your one thing that you would like to see happen?
Gosh, it's really hard to add to those two points that you've made, and absolutely 100% agree. Something practical, I think, that the North East could do, as far as trying to encourage people from disadvantaged backgrounds to get involved in the tech industry. I would love to see a digital education forum, which would include teachers, youth organisations, potentially the university, but also local businesses, to come up with some kind of programme that would encourage and reach out to young people who automatically think this isn't open to them because they don't have any access to digital technology at home, and put together something that could be done either in holidays or after school clubs or something like that, which would really encourage and enable young people who do not have that kind of support at home to show them that this is open to them. And I know that the North East has this really fantastic, vibrant digital economy. And at the moment, those young people are just completely kind of shut out of it. And I know that everybody wants to do something about it. And I think that might be a really good starting point.
Thank you very much, Sue. Karen, what's your one thing?
My one thing is, I mean, we already do a lot of outreach and engagement. We just need to do more. And I think what we always try to do is to have good role models and mentors out there in the communities, and that's people from all of the different backgrounds doing all of the different types of roles and jobs and the different genders. And you know, we just try our best to do that, but of course there's always more we can do. And actually, as a big giant global corporation, we should be doing more, because the SMEs and the micro businesses don't always have the ability to afford their staff the time to do as much outreach and engagement as we can do. So I just think we need to be better at telling the stories internally so that we can get more people to volunteer to do more externally. That's what I think we need to do.
All right, thank you very much. Farija, you still have your hand up. Is that from the previous situation, or did you want to say something more?
No, that's all right. I didn't click it back. Yeah, but I just want to add in something. I don't know, it might be relevant.
Sure.
It's because everybody's experienced their personal, experience of discrimination, and specifically, around the racial discrimination that they have had or, they've experienced. I would like to tell everybody, yes, I think within, if we are talking about Northeast, there is quite a high rise in this as well. If you look at jobs, if you look at the representation in schools, how the children are, being judged on, and, even with the job market, like, obviously I never had any plan of founding my own charity, but because I've faced the discrimination in my workplace and I had to do 20 times more to prove that, oh, I was able to do this job. It's like there comes a point for the people like us coming from different backgrounds that we have to prove to somebody. So we're not actually living, we're creating stress for ourselves, and this is not good because we have been put into the competition, whereas the people, the person who is from a white origin, they're not being pressured to do that work, and they don't have to have that kind. Whereas we need to prove it to people. Oh, if we have been given this job, thank you so much. Like, we are being like, oh, it's been so great, you have been given us a job, let us do it, and let us do it 100 times more. Whereas it shouldn't have happened, and it shouldn't be there. There shouldn't be any expectations from Black, Asian, and minority ethnic groups as much as, there has to be a balance for them. And it's the same what our children experience as well, that they sometimes have to prove, oh no, they fit in the community. And my question would be to everybody would be, if we talk about Britain as a whole, then is it only the white people who have the duty of care or the British values, or is it everyone who is living with British values? Because British values does not say that, oh, it is specific for Black, it is specific for Asian, it's specific for white. It's for everybody. So then we are actually hurting ourselves as a nation as well, because we're not actually working towards a main goal. We are doing things in isolation and in different groups. So I think that would be my question, to think that, are we really following where we are living as citizens, or are we still living back home or in our origins,
Thank you very much. All right, thank you all very much. It was very interesting. I picked up a lot of interesting elements, and one is that we all got a lot to learn. One is that hopefully this was a little step in terms of connecting people together that care about these issues, and that share this vision of diversity, equality, and inclusion that I believe we need as a society. And so hopefully we did a little step into that direction to connecting. All right, so that's the conclusion of this session. I want to thank everybody who's watching this video for taking the time. I hope it was enjoyable, and I'm sure it was interesting. Thank you all participants, and I'm sure we'll be in touch. Thank you.